Stop scrolling. If you found this video at this exact moment, it is not an accident, it is an answer. You were about to give up. And heaven knows it. That night, the room was quiet in a way that felt heavy, not peaceful. The kind of silence that makes your own thoughts sound louder than they should. He sat alone on the edge of his bed, staring at the wall as if it might speak back to him. His phone was in his hand, unlocked, glowing softly, but there were no messages. No missed calls. No notifications. And somehow, that hurt more than bad news ever could. He had prayed before. Many times. But tonight, he didn't pray with words. There was no strength left for that. Instead, he whispered something far more dangerous than a prayer. God. If you're real. I don't know how much longer I can do this. His chest tightened. Not because he wanted to die. But because he was exhausted from trying to live. People thought he was strong. They always do. They didn't see the quiet battles. The nights where sleep refused to come. The mornings where waking up felt like a punishment instead of a gift. He had smiled for everyone. Helped others. Encouraged friends. But no one asked him the one question he needed to hear. Are you okay? Really? The clock on the wall ticked forward, indifferent to his pain. Every second sounded like a reminder that time was moving. Even though his life felt stuck. He looked down at his phone again, ready to lock the screen. And that's when it happened. A video appeared. No warning. No recommendation he recognized. A channel he had never searched for. The title was strange. Uncomfortable. Almost personal. It felt like the words were looking back at him. He hesitated. Just one more video, he thought. Then done. He pressed play. The voice that spoke wasn't loud. It didn't shout. It didn't threaten. It spoke calmly. Slowly. As if it already knew how fragile his heart was. You feel forgotten. But you are not unseen. His breath caught. That sentence landed somewhere deep inside him. Somewhere he didn't even know still hurt. The voice continued. You think heaven is silent, but silence does not mean absence. Sometimes God is quiet because he is working where you cannot see. His fingers tightened around the phone. How could this video describe what he had never said out loud? The voice spoke about pain that hides behind smiles. About strength that looks impressive to others but feels empty on the inside. About prayers whispered through tears instead of words. Every sentence felt like it was peeling layers off his soul. And then came the line that broke him. You didn't find this message. This message was sent to find you. His eyes filled with tears before he could stop them. Not because he was weak. But because, for the first time in a long while, he felt recognized. Seen. The video talked about waiting seasons. About doors that stay closed not as punishment, but as protection. About how God sometimes delays answers because the answer itself needs time to become safe for us. He thought about all the things that hadn't worked out. The plans that failed. The people who left. The prayers that felt ignored. What if they weren't failures? What if they were warnings? The voice said something else that night. Something that would stay with him long after the video ended. If God wanted to destroy you, he would not be speaking to you right now. That thought shook him. Because despite everything, he was still here. Still breathing. Still listening. The video didn't promise instant miracles. It didn't say tomorrow would be easy. Instead, it said something far more honest. God does not rush healing. He builds it. The tears came freely now. Not the loud, dramatic kind. The quiet kind. The kind that washes away something heavy you didn't know you were carrying. Near the end, the voice softened even more. You are closer to your breakthrough than you think. The enemy would not be fighting you this hard if your future was empty. He leaned back against the bed, staring at the ceiling again. But this time, the silence felt different. It didn't feel empty anymore. It felt held. The final words appeared on the screen. If you are still listening, heaven is not finished with you. The video ended. The screen went dark. But something inside him stayed awake. For the first time in months, he didn't feel the need to distract himself. Didn't feel the urge to escape. He placed the phone down slowly. And whispered a new sentence. God. I'm still here. That night, nothing around him changed. The room was the same. The problems were still waiting. The answers hadn't magically appeared. But he changed. Because hope had quietly returned. Not as a loud promise. But as a steady presence. And sometimes, that is more than enough to survive another day. He didn't sleep immediately that night. Not because his problems were gone. But because his mind was quieter than it had been in a long time. The words from the video kept replaying in his head, slowly, gently, like a heartbeat. If God wanted to destroy you, He would not be speaking to you right now. He had heard motivational words before. People always say things when they don't know what else to say. But this felt different. This felt personal. He turned on his side and stared at the faint light coming through the window. Somewhere outside, a dog barked. A vehicle passed. Life was moving. For the first time in weeks, that didn't make him angry. He closed his eyes. And without realizing it, he whispered again. God. If that was you. Don't stop. Morning came quietly. No dramatic sunrise. No sudden joy. Just another day. But when he opened his eyes, there was something new waiting for him. Not happiness. Clarity. The heaviness was still there, but it wasn't crushing him the same way. It felt like weight that could be carried, not weight meant to break him. As he got up, memories started surfacing. Moments he had buried deep. The first time he felt abandoned. The promise that was broken. The prayer that never seemed answered. He had always assumed silence meant rejection. But what if silence meant preparation? That thought followed him as he went through the day. People talked. Laughed. Complained about small things. And for once, he noticed something strange. Everyone was fighting something. Some people just hid it better. Later that evening, he found himself opening the same channel again. Not out of desperation this time. Out of curiosity. The next video played. The voice returned, calm, steady, unhurried. You are not behind in life. You are being aligned. That sentence stopped him. Because he had spent years feeling late. Late to success. Late to peace. Late to happiness. The video spoke about seasons. About how no seed grows the moment it is planted. About how roots form in darkness long before fruit appears in light. He thought about his own life. All the unseen effort. The silent endurance. The strength no one applauded. What if those years weren't wasted? What if they were underground years? The voice said something else that unsettled him. Some prayers don't get answered immediately because the answer would break you if it came too early. He felt that deeply. He remembered things he once begged for. Relationships that ended. Opportunities that disappeared. At the time, they felt like losses. Now, he wasn't so sure. That night, he did something he hadn't done in a long time. He sat quietly. No phone. No noise. No distraction. Just him. And God. I don't know how to trust you, he said honestly. But I'm tired of running. There was no voice from the sky. No sudden sign. But there was a strange warmth in his chest. Like reassurance without words. Days passed. Not perfect days. Not easy days. But lighter ones. Then came the test. It always does. One afternoon, a message arrived. From someone who had once been everything to him. 3 simple words. We need to talk. His heart sank. Old emotions rushed back like a flood. Fear. Hope. Pain. The part of him that had started healing suddenly felt exposed. That night, he couldn't sleep again. But this time, it wasn't emptiness keeping him awake. It was a choice. Do I go back to what broke me? Or do I trust what is rebuilding me? He opened the channel again, almost unconsciously. A new video had been uploaded. The first line hit harder than anything before. God will never send you back to what he already pulled you out of. His breath caught. How could the timing be this exact? The video continued. Not every open door is from God. Some doors reopen only to test if you still remember why you left. He felt exposed. Seen. The voice spoke about emotional traps disguised as second chances. About how growth often means resisting familiarity. About how God sometimes allows temptation not to trap you, but to prove how far you've come. He stared at the message on his phone for a long time. Then, slowly, he put it down. He didn't reply. Not because he was angry, but because he was choosing peace over patterns. That night, something shifted. He realized healing wasn't about feeling good all the time. It was about choosing differently. Even when it hurt. Weeks went by. The videos became part of his routine. Not as escape, but as reminder. One line stayed with him more than the others. God does not reveal the full plan because he wants you to walk by trust, not control. He had always wanted details. Timelines. Certainty. But maybe faith wasn't about knowing where the road ends. Maybe it was about trusting who walks with you. One evening, as rain tapped gently against the window, he smiled without forcing it. Not because life was perfect, but because for the first time, he believed it could be meaningful again. He whispered softly, "I'm not healed yet, but I'm healing." And heaven heard that too. The calm didn't last forever. It never does. Just when life started to feel manageable, everything around him began to shake again. Not loudly. Not all at once. But in small, unsettling ways. A plan fell apart without warning. An opportunity he had been hopeful about quietly disappeared. Someone he trusted misunderstood him completely. Old thoughts returned, knocking softly at first. See? Nothing really changed. You were foolish to hope. This peace won't last. He tried to ignore them. But doubt is patient. One night, after a long day that drained every bit of strength he had rebuilt, he sat alone again, just like before. Same room. Same silence. Different heart. Or so he thought. He opened his phone, searching for comfort, for reassurance. But this time, there was no new video. No timely message. No familiar voice. Nothing. The silence felt heavier than before. And that scared him more than pain ever had. God. He whispered, frustration creeping into his voice. Why now? He had done everything right. He had waited. He had trusted. He had let go of what hurt him. So why did it feel like he was being pushed back into uncertainty? That night, sleep didn't come easily. Questions circled his mind. What if the peace was temporary? What if he misunderstood everything? What if God had gone quiet again? Morning arrived, but it brought no answers. Days followed, each one testing his patience. He noticed something uncomfortable about himself. He was tempted to go back. Back to old habits. Old comforts. Old versions of himself. Not because they were good, but because they were familiar. And familiarity can feel safer than faith. One evening, exhausted from resisting his own thoughts, he spoke out loud. I trusted you. Why does it feel like you stepped away? The words hung in the air. Nothing responded. But something inside him remembered a line from one of the videos. God's silence is not abandonment. It is invitation. Invitation to what? To grow without constant reassurance. To walk without needing signs every step. To believe without emotional rewards. That realization didn't feel comforting. It felt challenging. A few days later, something unexpected happened. He was asked to help someone else. Not in a dramatic way. Not as a hero. Just to listen. The person spoke about feeling lost. Confused. Tired of pretending to be strong. Every word sounded familiar. Too familiar. As he listened, he realized something startling. He was speaking wisdom he didn't even know he had. Words of patience. Of timing. Of hope that doesn't rush. And as he spoke, it hit him. This is why the silence came. God wasn't pulling away. He was trusting him to stand. Later that night, alone again, the quiet felt different. Not empty. Intentional. He opened his phone one more time. A new video had finally appeared. The first sentence was slow, deliberate. If God is quiet right now, it is because you are strong enough to walk without being carried. His eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but recognition. The video continued. You are not in delay. You are in transition. It spoke about how the final test before breakthrough often feels like loss. How growth feels uncomfortable because it requires leaving familiar versions of ourselves behind. How God sometimes removes emotional support so faith can mature. Then came the line that changed everything. Before God gives you what you prayed for, He prepares you to keep it. He understood now. If the blessing had come earlier, it would have crushed him. If the answer had arrived sooner, he he wouldn't have known how to protect it. The waiting wasn't punishment. It was training. That night, he prayed differently. Not asking for signs. Not asking for relief. But saying something simple. I trust you. Even here. The next morning, nothing magical happened. But something subtle did. He felt steady. Not excited. Not afraid. Grounded. Weeks later, the opportunity he thought was lost returned, but in a healthier form. A door opened, not with urgency, but with peace. Conversations became clearer. Decisions felt lighter. And then he realized something profound. The breakthrough wasn't the change around him. It was the change within him. He was no longer desperate for God's presence. He was aware of it. One evening, as the sun faded quietly beyond the horizon, he smiled again, this time without effort. He remembered the person he had been at the beginning. The one who begged for a sign. The one who felt forgotten. The one who thought silence meant rejection. He whispered softly. Thank you for not answering too early. Because now he understood. God was never late. God was never absent. God was building something deep enough to last. And if you are still listening to this story, if you are in the quiet season right now, know this. The silence you're in is not the end of your story. It is the moment heaven trusts you enough to walk forward. Even when the path isn't fully lit. The change didn't announce itself. It rarely does. There was no sudden applause from life. No dramatic confirmation from the world. But something inside him had settled. And that quiet certainty changed everything. He stopped waking up with fear. Not because the future was clear, but because he no longer felt alone while facing it. The problems didn't disappear overnight. Some stayed. Some slowly lost their power. What disappeared was the panic. He learned how to pause before reacting. How to breathe before assuming the worst. How to listen, not just to God, but to himself. One afternoon, while scrolling through old photos, he came across a picture of who he used to be. The eyes looked the same. But the weight behind them was gone. He realized something then. Healing didn't erase the past. It redeemed it. Every night he once cried. Every prayer that felt unanswered. Every door that closed without explanation. None of it was wasted. It was shaping him into someone who could carry peace, not just momentary happiness. One evening, he received a message. Not the kind that reopened wounds. Not the kind that demanded a response. It was simple. I don't know how you stayed strong. But your words helped me. He read it twice. Then once more. And for the first time, he understood something that had once confused him. God often heals us by turning our pain into someone else's survival. He remembered the nights he begged for comfort. Now he was becoming the comfort. That night, he sat quietly again, but this time, it wasn't because he was broken. It was because he was grateful. Thank you, he whispered. Not for an easy life, but for a meaningful one. The silence around him felt warm now. Not empty. Not heavy. Peaceful. He no longer searched for constant signs. He no longer panicked when answers took time. Because he had learned something sacred. Faith isn't about feeling God every moment. It's about trusting Him even when emotions are quiet. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. Life continued, imperfect, unpredictable, real. But he walked through it differently. With patience instead of pressure. With hope instead of urgency. With trust instead of fear. One night, as he prepared to sleep, a thought came gently to him. What if this story wasn't only about you? He smiled. Because he knew the answer. It never was. Somewhere, someone else was sitting in a quiet room right now. Holding a phone. Fighting thoughts they hadn't shared with anyone. Someone else was wondering if God had forgotten them. And maybe, just maybe, this message found them at the exact moment they needed it. If you are still here, still listening, still breathing, then this part is for you. You are not late. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not unseen. The waiting you're in is not God saying no. It's God saying, trust me with the timing. And one day, often when you least expect it, you'll look back and realize the silence that once scared you was the season that saved you. Because heaven was not ignoring you. Heaven was preparing you. And it still is.